Perfect. All right, it is 10 o'clock. We're going to call this meeting in order, certify that we do have a quorum present. All 5 members are here. Item number 2 is opening prayer, and I believe we have Reverend Gorley from First Baptist Church. There you are. It's hard to tell with the mask where everybody is. And following that, Commissioner John Clement, will you lead us in the pledges? Would everybody please rise?
God, we come to you today, and Father, seeking your face, acknowledging you as the only God, the God of all creation, the God of all wisdom, the God of all knowledge, the God of all understanding. And God, we call upon you to provide wisdom to this court today. Father God, I ask that each of these commissioners will seek your face, seek your knowledge, seek your wisdom. Father God, as they act on behalf of this county, I pray that you will give them wisdom, give them knowledge. I pray that you bring unity, Father God. I pray that you would bring your power to bear upon, Father, not only this nation, this state, but Father God, also, Father, to this nation. Father God, we thank you so much for what you have done for us, and we ask that you continue, Father God, to pour your blessing out upon us. Lord, we say a special prayer, Father, for those who have, Father, been, Father, afflicted with this virus. Lord, I pray your healing hand upon them. God, I pray that you would, Father God, move, Lord, to, Father, mitigate this virus on our land. God, we pray for healing in our land, Father God. We pray for you to bring people together, Father God, in your name. God, I just thank you so much for those who have served and are serving this great nation, Father God. I pray for protection upon each person serving this nation, Lord. I pray that you would be with their families and comfort them. Father, those who made the ultimate sacrifice, Lord, we thank you for them, and we pray you would strengthen their families. For our first responders, Father God, for those on the front lines, God, each and every day. Father, I pray that you would encourage them. I pray that you would strengthen them, protect them, and guide them, Father God. Lord, we are grateful for this nation. We're grateful that you have allowed us to be here. We're thankful for the blessing that you have poured out upon us. Help us to return that blessing with obedience and praise to you. And Father, we ask all of this in Jesus' name.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible.
You good, Pam? Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. Item 5, we have recognition of Firefighter of the Year from Myra and Munster Volunteer Fire Department. The first up, and Ray Fletcher's not here today. He's taking a couple of much-needed days off. We have James Witt from Myra Volunteer Fire Department, and he's receiving this posthumously. He passed away, I believe, last month. He had over 20 years' experience in the department. He's devoted countless hours to that department, and they will miss him dearly. We do have Mrs. Witt, I believe, here to accept this, and we'll sign it real quick, and then we'll take some pictures. But we appreciate all his hard work and service to the community, and thank you so much for being here with us this morning. So thank you. And then next up, from Munster Volunteer Fire Department, we actually have a team of individuals that has been designated as their COVID-19 response team. This team responded to 88% of all calls from the onset of COVID-19. And something that I think that everybody out there needs to be aware of is these volunteers obviously volunteer their time, but also volunteer their service in responding to medical calls, which could involve COVID-19 patients and people with COVID-19. And they have done, not just Munster, but all the volunteer fire departments have done an excellent job in handling that. We have 5 individuals from Munster. I'm going to ask them to stand whenever I call their name. First one is Michael Flightman, Andy Flushy, Jeremy Hess, Darian Peters, and Jose Valsquez. So let's give these gentlemen a round of applause, please. And we'll step out in the hall and do a picture wherever our photographer is at that might want that once we get these signed.
That'd be with or without our mask.
With the mask, we've got to do proper, make people guess who you are.
Munster's having their fundraiser when? And you're using all the proper protocols and all that. You want everybody to come, right? You're gonna have everybody doing what they're supposed to do. I'm trying to give you a plug.
Well, I think that's...
In other words, y'all are gonna be safe and careful, and everybody ought to come and have fun.
And volunteer fire services are needed even during the pandemic, so they operate off of volunteer dollars, so make sure to be appreciative when you can. And
Yeah, that's how they fund themselves, so,
well, gentlemen, y'all want to join me out in the
sure. Let's
Out in the
make sure
hall.
I got these right. That's Mr. Witts. There's the Munster ones.
All right, item number 6 is public comments. We do have 2 individuals that signed up. One of them is going to be on the telephone. I don't have the number, but I think there's only one person on there.
Yes.
Ms. Denton,
Yes, sir.
appreciate you joining us this morning. You have 5 minutes since there's only 2 speakers, and the floor is yours.
Well, thank you. I have a 4-minute version. County Commissioners and Judge Brinkley, we build memorials to remember how an event has shaped us, our culture. We in the South experienced economic exploitation and retribution, experienced political subjugation, experienced military occupation, experienced rebuilding from a devastating war in our homeland, and experienced Reconstruction, which left the South with a dependent black population. This makes our cultural experience different from the rest of the United States. The monument represents a coming back from devastation by honoring those brave warriors. Our culture is held up to ridicule. The history is written by the victors, not the defeated, but we are a resilient people. The Great Depression of the 1930s did not impact the South as it did the rest of the country because the South had been in an economic state of depression since 1865. President Franklin D. Roosevelt appointed the National Emergency Council to evaluate the economic crisis, which had gripped the southern states since the end of the war. In July 1938, the council reported its findings. Confederate states by the Northeast left the South the equivalent of a banana republic. For example, the cost of transporting a product from Texas to the Northeast was up to 75% greater in comparison to transporting a product from another region of the country. This very economic policy was responsible for the extreme poverty visited on the white population and shared with the black population. In many ways, these common economic policies drew the two races together on a personal level. We did not begin to recover economically until World War II, when the rest of the nation tapped into our patriotic culture. It is no accident that the 2 most decorated soldiers from both World War I and World War II were from the South, Sergeant Alvin York of Kentucky and Audie Murphy of Hunt County, Texas. For 2 to 3 generations following the end of the war, their families had existed on subsistence farming, which was indicative throughout the South, a period of about 75 years. This is my story. This is the story of my family. And this is the story of the South. This is what we mean when we say you are erasing history when you destroy our monuments. This is what we mean by our cultural identity. If your ancestors lived in the South prior to 1860, this is your story. These are facts, not some romanticized version of a lost cause. This truth is being replaced by a slavery narrative invented for current political purposes. Let's look at the results of removing the Confederate monument on the square in the context of the current political climate. Every morning we have a report of how many children have been killed, of new businesses in ruin, of police officers lured into ambushes by rioters. Their objective is to destroy our constitutional republic and replace it with socialism. Moving or destroying our Confederate monuments is a convenient way to again divide us as a nation, to introduce other, quote, reforms, end quote, which will end with the loss of our God-given rights. Let's not allow this insurrection to result in creating yet another division. And my source for is the report to the President of the Economic Conditions of the South, July the 25th, 1938, Library of Congress documents. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. The next speaker we have that signed up is Bob Smith. And Mr. Smith, you also have 5 minutes.
I have permission to approach the bench.
Yeah.
Thanks, sir. Monumental decision. According to the Texas County Commissioners webpage, the county commissioners are responsible for roads, bridges within their precinct and making policy budget decisions. The 4 commissioners were elected from a quarter of the county's population and serve along with the county judge in this commissioner's court. I understand that it's not in the job description for making decisions on monumental removal. We, the citizens of Cooke County, elected you as officials, and therefore we should have a right to vote on the removal of monuments within Cooke County. Respectfully, I'm asking the court to consider putting on the November 3rd ballot to have a choice to remove or keep the monument where it stands. It is part of our history and would cost taxpayers to have it removed. The citizens should have a say in the removal, since ultimately they will pay the price. There's a rumor on the street that a letter was submitted to each commissioner privately by the judge's wife asking the court approval of removing the monument. The judge needs to clarify if the rumor is true in a letter to the people. If it is true, then this is definitely consideration of and it is true. And if this is true, then this is definitely a conflict of interest, and the judge should remove himself from any voting decisions involving the monument if he has any respect or integrity for the citizens of this county. In closing, I appreciate the opportunity to express the monumental concerns. God bless America, Texas, Cooke County, and Gainesville.
Thank you, sir. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. I do want to remove item A, which is the minutes from the previous meetings.
It's A.
A is an apple.
Okay.
No other questions, I make a motion, we approve the consent agenda excluding A.
We have a motion by Commissioner Leon Clement,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner John Clement. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor of approving the consent with the exception of item A signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion passes 5-0. Item A is deliberate and consider possible approval of the minutes of the previous meetings. We do have, there was a mistake, I think, on one of them in the packet from the last meeting, which was the July 13th court. It notes that John Clement was absent, but I'm pretty certain John Clement was there.
I was going to pull it, but you pulled it for me, so.
I'm kind of surprised that you made motions when you weren't here, but that's, you know. So it has been clarified. Pam, did you make any other changes? You said you,
Changes on June 8th. I think I had June 8th instead of July 8th. I forgot to change my month.
okay.
I think I had him absent on one more.
No, yeah, it's on the
I fixed
June,
all them, but
yeah. Yeah, those have since been corrected. Any other questions?
Make a motion we approve the minutes.
We have a motion by Commissioner Leon Clement,
Second.
second by Commissioner John Clement. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion passes 5-0. Item 8 is open a public hearing regarding replats of lots 1129 and 1130 of Lake Kiowa subdivision, and it is 1020. The public hearing is open. Do we have anybody that signed up for that public hearing? Do we have anybody that wishes to speak that did not get a chance to sign up at the public hearing for the replat in Lake Kiowa? Seeing none, that public hearing is closed at 10:21, which is item 9. Item 10 is deliberate and consider possible approval of replats of lots 1129 and 1130 in Lake Kiowa. Commissioner Snuggs, you got anything on these?
EOA sign off on it?
Yep.
Good with it. If they signed off on it, make a motion we approve.
We have a motion by Commissioner Jason Snuggs to approve the replat, seconded by Commissioner Hollowell. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion passes 5-0. Item 11 is deliberate, consider possible approval of purchase of proposal quote and sale order agreement for ES&S voting equipment. Pam, you want to walk us through what this is?
So what this is we got I thought this would be on the grant, but this is the machines we're going to use, we're going to hopefully purchase with the HAVA grant that we got for $120,000, and then we have a $16,000 match, so I got it as close as I could with purchasing 31 new express votes and 4 new DS200s. Give me 75 total express votes and 8 or 9 total DS200 scanners. And I also brought over here, Leon wanted to see how much we're going to have to talk about. If you do approve this, we're going to have to talk about how we're going to deliver the election equipment. That's what one precinct has to pick up on them $2 if added on these new express votes and the tables we have to use so we can have more social distancing,
Now say that again.
the whole thing.
That is how much what now?
That's just what one precinct has to pick up.
That's the, everything total in one precinct.
One
That's
precinct.
one
That's not including the
voting.
ones that pick up for the DS200 scanners that the sheriff's been delivering, but that's what a precinct will have to pick up that does not have the DS200.
Just for clarification, that's voting precinct, not commissioner precinct.
Correct, I'm
Okay,
sorry.
okay.
Voting location,
Yes,
voting precinct
yes.
location. That's just one.
So how many machines do you say now, 75?
We have 75 total now.
How are you going to disperse them?
I don't know, that's what we're going to have to discuss, how, because I don't really know that right now, like in the runoff, the sheriff's office delivered 4 precincts that had the scanners, the big trash cans, because there was so much in those. So they delivered their express votes and them tables. But all my rest of the precincts that were using 3 to 4 of them express votes had to pick up 2 to 3 of them big tables now. They have the top boxes, their shield. Now they have a shield. And the big black box is all their PPE equipment. the white, is there other voting booths?
Well,
So,
maybe I should have asked it a different way. How are you gonna divvy them up?
well, I've got just a chart it's by how many voters they have in a big election. That's how I've divvied them up.
Okay, so,
I just kind of did this morning. It looks pretty crappy, but yeah. So my biggest are Lake Kiowa and Munster, 18. They're going to get 7 express votes, is how I have it figured. Then the next set of, the next biggest will get 6, and then it'll go to 5 and 4 and 3. So I did that kind of medium over there as 4. There's several that'll get 4 that have to pick them up unless we figure out a way to deliver.
the only reason I wanted everybody to see that is, we replaced the big suitcases with the smaller machines, and that's nice. But we've been talking ever since this started, that this is all nice and fun, that we're buying all this equipment, but there's gonna come a day that where we're gonna put it all and how we're gonna deliver it, and I think you're fast approaching that day. And I don't wanna wait until
Election.
November the 1st for Pam to say, how do I get all this equipment out of here? So I'm not trying to kill the purchase, I'm just,
I wonder if there's some way we could contract that out, if anybody want a one-shot deal.
That's what I was going to ask. Do y'all want me to look into a moving
That's
company
what I
maybe,
would-
or?
I mean, there's not an
Go back to
integrity
commission-
issue, we don't have to worry about the election, but they're sealed when they go out.
Right, I'm sealing everything, yeah, everything I've talked to other counties that, that's kind of what they do. They deliver everything, ballots and everything. I don't think I'll ever want to do that. I think that
So,
is crazy, but.
you're saying they would still pick up everything that's on that chair, or whatever that's sitting on?
They would
Two
still.
carts.
2 carts. You would still send that with them, but all the machinery would go out with
Right, and the tables, the poll books, and all the express votes, they would still pick up their ballots and their PPE equipment,
Well, can I ask,
signs.
if we're gonna hire somebody, couldn't we put it all together as a kit for everything? And if we're gonna hire a moving company or whoever, we buy some dollies that will handle the kit that's especially set up, where Pam can put it all together, it's wheeled out, one container, they take it, it's sealed, maybe we shrink wrap it, something.
Counties have them big cabinets.
I was gonna say like those band boxes.
Yeah, that's
To
what I
move a
was
band
wondering.
with or something, they're like a big blue container that rolls on rubber
Something on
wheels.
wheels. that
I've
they
seen
can-
them at conferences, counties do buy them, the bigger Dallas County has that kind of stuff, of course.
Something, if it gets to where an elevator or something's ever used, something that fits in that.
Yeah.
And these
And
won't
then
fit in
we're
that
gonna-
elevator. The ones I've seen.
It's gonna have to be an enclosed truck of some sort.
Well, and might let the moving company dictate how they want to move it. Some people make them move loose pieces and can't move the carts, especially for several carts. I don't know.
If you're gonna do this, you need to make it easy for Pam to get it all together, and it goes out, she it's checked off, this is going to precinct 3 area, voting area.
I guess my concern is if you have a moving company do it, which I think is a good idea, but you've either got to have a checklist or you've got to have it in that self-contained, because that is just unload 22 here and unload 18 here, and they don't have to worry about, hey, do I have all the 6
Right.
boxes or 20 boxes to go?
Exactly. I mean, I'll have a sticker on them, kind of like that right there says Lake Kiowa precinct. Of course, I'll have an address and everything, but still, I get what you're saying. They would have to, because each
Just make it simple.
equipment is specific to that
That particular.
location. They're, of course, ballots and even their, depending on how big or little, what they get is a little different.
Of course, your container, probably going to need wheels, might need to fit on the elevator.
Mhm.
So you need to keep that in mind
I
when
can
we're looking at
look.
what kind of containers to purchase and will it accommodate what you need.
What's your time frame for needing all this, man?
next week.
No.
Last week.
Yeah, 2 months ago.
I mean, to know when, how we're going to do it, but as far as if I bought something to put them in, they pick up the Monday before. But, I need to know and get it ordered. I don't even know if, he did tell me if we approved today, we would get this new equipment by election. But anything else, I don't know.
When do you start setting the equipment up? When do you break it up? When do you break it up to what goes to what voting precinct?
Well, I already have that broke up, but as far as putting the disc in, it's when ES&S sends that to me, which is usually about a month before we start testing, 2 to 3 weeks before early voting starts. So early voting's October 20th, I think. So,
So you think you're gonna use this new equipment in the election in November?
yes,
Okay.
I'm definitely
So
going
it takes
to.
me back to, in October, you're gonna be piling this all up precinct by precinct? Okay. So you got 2 months.
And she could probably already be trying to contact some moving companies,
Yeah.
because you have some idea what the scale is. I mean,
Yeah.
it's gonna have to be a moving company,
Maybe
probably.
talk to some of the furniture, I know they won't, odds wouldn't do it, but I don't know about some of these other ones possibly, I don't know.
There's
Or,
probably some moving companies that are out there that you probably want to make sure they're bonded. I mean, they have some kind of
Right, that's-
insurance
How
on
about
it.
the fire department guys? Do they not still have
Yeah, I was thinking,
some moving, some guys at the fire department to do some moving?
Rescue Me Movers.
yeah, rescue me movers.
Rescue movers, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a few of them out there that you might want to,
And they probably have more resources because you probably don't have time for one van to run around and do them all.
yeah,
it
they're
takes
gonna
you
have
just
to
2
be,
hours.
You're gonna have to get them up here and show them what they're gonna have to, before you get any real quotes from anybody. I'd start on that immediately, I wouldn't wait.
Going to each site. How many precincts do they have to deliver to?
just, be 8. Well, no, because
All of them.
about
Why don't we
10,
let 'em-
actually, 10 or,
There's 10 stops that they have.
there's 16 precincts, but there's probably,
You must
maybe
have-
just 2 that could pick up, because they won't have, but.
If you're gonna do most of them, do it all.
Yeah, that's where.
Do them all.
I was, so 16, yes.
16 stops.
Yes, so 16 stops.
Is there a way, I know some precincts are larger than others, so if you're looking for containers, whatever your largest amount would be, and then we keep everything the same?
Well,
If it
but you
takes
look
two-
back at the container for one poll book, right?
Well, depends on what's going, there's more than just one poll book.
I've just used that as an example though, but, I mean, where she combined, polling places, that's gonna take a significant container, I would envision. Whereas if it's a single polling place that has one machine, then you wouldn't buy a large container and let it fall and flop and possibly
Thought we had-
break.
I thought we had everything consolidated where it's just not one single polling location.
Well, I'm not being literal. I mean,
There's polling locations that have more,
Lake Kiowa has a lot more activity than Callisburg,
Right.
for instance.
Yeah.
I mean,
I would-
and so I can't imagine that they need the same amount of equipment, thus a smaller
You don't,
container.
right.
I would make this suggestion, if you can get it done that fast, by the time of the next meeting, you have some idea for us about what you're gonna put that in, to put in a truck. I know you're gonna be pushing it, but, well, you're gonna have to anyway. I mean, you don't have much time to wait. And then we'll have a better idea how you think. I have no idea what you're gonna use to put that in. You have an idea, because you said you've seen
I've
some
seen
things.
some big, I don't even know if all that would fit in some of them, but it probably would. Yeah, I've seen some containers at conference.
Wonder if some of these, where we're buying the poll books, if they have some sort of equipment, hauling equipment to consolidate everything. When we're purchasing this equipment,
Yeah,
they may
they
actually
may.
have.
What about the voting machine company? Do they have something you utilize like that? Do they?
Right, yeah, that's what I'm saying. They do make
They do make it. Okay.
Roland, blue, different sizes,
Oh, okay.
first place.
fairly
to look.
expensive. I don't know if we're gonna,
Well, what do you call expensive?
I don't know, but I'm assuming, I've never really looked into the price because I never thought we would need something like that, but I'm just assuming it's gonna be fairly expensive.
They'll have some part numbers and descriptions, and then you could
Yeah, I'll-
always
I'll
go to
bring y'all some-
Amazon or somewhere and compare prices versus, it may be cheaper from the folks that sell the
You
poll
never
books,
know.
but I'd shop it.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Actually, they ought to cut you a real good price on the equipment to move their equipment, since they're selling you the equipment.
That's kind of what I thought.
They ought to really cut you a deal on the equipment it takes to move their equipment.
Right,
So you would buy their equipment.
right. We can't buy it unless we,
You know,
we're gonna get this approved today if we're gonna do it though.
get what approved? For the machines. Yeah, I understand that.
Any questions, though, about whether, I know we got some logistical issues there, but any questions about what Pam is requesting?
Do you have enough room to store them?
No.
Not now, but when we renovate, we will. But yeah, right now it'll just have to go upstairs. They're already upstairs right now, all the express votes we have right currently because of all that COVID equipment. I didn't really have room to put it back into the election room.
No issue with climate control on that stuff, right?
No issue with what?
With climate control, not going to get too hot or too cold.
Not gonna hurt it being
I don't
upstairs.
think so. I guess I could.
You might ought to double check on that.
If I had to, I could put it in my storage up there. That is climate control.
Oh, okay.
Very true.
Yeah, that might not be a
Something.
bad idea.
Something to think about. So what are you looking for, a motion on this, and how much of this is going to get reimbursed through the grant?
120 gets reimbursed?
We've already got all the money.
So, we got the money, it's just, we got to match it with, what is it, 15, 16,000 or
Yeah,
something?
16.
Move to approve.
We have a motion by Commissioner Hollowell, seconded by Commissioner Leon Clement. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion passes 5-0. Item number 12 is deliberate and consider possible action regarding imposition of optional Texas Department of Motor Vehicle fees for calendar year 2021. I think we currently do the $10 road and bridge fee, and then last year we added the, I think it was a dollar.
Or was it a dollar?
It was a dollar for the child safety fee.
I'd lean toward leaving it as is.
My thought.
Because it can't exceed the $10, or.
You want
Yeah, I was thinking, we go up on that one.
No, we're at
the max.
pretty much every county charges that.
Do not use the word going up.
Well,
It's maintain what we approved last year, maintain the same, no change.
No
So
change.
the options are no change or to change it. You got to check one of the two boxes. And so
I make a motion,
we have a motion by Commissioner Snuggs to leave it the same at no change.
Second.
Second by Commissioner John Clement. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion passes 5-0. Item 13 is deliberate and consider possible approval of road use agreement with Wolf Ridge Wind LLC. Commissioner Clement, you want to talk to this?
The old original wind farm that's called Wolf Ridge out north of Munster is going to put all new blades on the generators. And I think change some of the gearing up, make them a little more efficient, and modernize the blades. I think they wear out over a period of time. They hope to start this sometime in October and finish it after the first of the year. They're doing this road use agreement where they're going to haul their equipment in. It won't be near as intense as a new construction. It's just the blades, several large cranes, and just the rest of the equipment to put it all back together. The route they're going to use, County Road, Main Road, is County Road 428, go north of Munster on 373 to their laydown yard. Once they get all of their equipment in their laydown yard, they'll primarily be doing all their heavy hauling on their own interior roads. They'll have to cross county roads, but they're not going to be hauling all of their equipment back and forth down all these county roads. And this is just a standard road use agreement. They've got a bond they're posting to fix anything that they do severe damage to. They're going to survey all the roads before and after. And I'm going to be the contact person if that makes the court happy. Going to have weekly meetings. Pretty standard. It's a benefit to the county. I mean, they have the right to use the roads, they're public roads. They do this so they're good neighbors basically, and if something gets tore up or whatever, they fix it.
And just to add to that a little bit, this road use agreement was the one that we heavily vetted during the last wind farm, and the bond amount is $200,000, I believe?
$200,000. The bond amount is $200,000. They cover everything from dust control, all the normal standard things that goes in one of these. And
Are you making a motion?
I make a motion we approve.
We have a motion by Commissioner Leon Clement. I'll second that motion. Any further discussion?
I have a semi-related question. When they put the new wind blades on, does that stop some of the depreciation for the tax rolls?
Yeah,
Yes.
it should raise the value.
The value will go back up.
Yeah. I don't know if it'll go up to where it was, but it'll increase.
Okay. Well, I like that.
The two wind farms, I made Mr. Smithson pull that out. The two wind farms, we'll get into that later, but since you brought it up now, used to be on the tax rolls in their own little column. Now they put them in with something else, and the two wind farms are still, it's $119 or $120 million, somewhere around there. I have to go look it back up.
That's after they depreciate.
That's after they've depreciated. They're still,
I think they're in the top 10 or close to it.
yeah, they're in the top 10. Oil is like 40 or 50 million more.
I was just curious because, we talk about how they depreciate out over
Yeah.
time. I figure if they.
This has a
do this,
chance
it would-
to.
This will increase their value. Again, I don't know how much, but it will increase the value.
Well, it is quite funny that, for the last 6 months, we heard all about the depreciation, but that's still, $100 million is a lot of money, even though they've depreciated, it's still a good income for the county, especially with everything that's been going on today.
And all the taxing entities, yeah.
Did we vote?
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion passes.
Sorry, but that's a good thing. It's taxes that are coming in.
Talk about that under budget.
Yeah, we can get to the tax rate.
We'll hit that again later.
Item number 14 is deliberate and consider possible approval of naming new private road in Eagles Perch Precinct 4 as PR 4000.
Yes, they cannot get 911 addresses out there because that road, it's going to stay a public-private or private-public road inside that subdivision, and they can't get 911 addresses until the road has a number. So my line of thinking was it's going to be, instead of CR, it's going to be PR.
And I think that's in our regs, that's supposed to be that way.
Yeah,
So,
and 4,000, since it's a private road, it'd be easier to designate to be the first one. So if that's all right with you all, I have to let COG know so they can proceed, so they can start getting their 911 addresses out there.
Is that a motion?
I make a motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Leon Clement, seconded by Commissioner John Clement. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion passes 5-0. Item 15 is deliberate and consider possible approval of contract for retirement of K-9 Officer Laura. Sheriff, you want to talk about this? This is also made available by a new change in the law as an option.
Good morning.
Morning.
I come to you this morning to ask that you approve the signing of the contract that will allow the canine handler that we have now, Mark Parsons, to retain the dog, care for the dog. The contract typically says that he will be humane and treat the dog the way it should be, and at such time that the Commissioners Court saw that he wasn't, you have the right to retrieve the dog. In the meantime, it also releases the county from any liability with the dog. All medical bills, all feed bills, anything that has to do with the dog will become the sole responsibility of the Deputy Parsons. So the new law that came into effect actually allows the agency head to surplus by gift to whoever the department decides to give the dog to. The reason why I'm here for y'all today is y'all have to agree to sign the contract. So if y'all agree to allow the judge to sign the contract, then it will become effective, and it will become effective immediately.
So move.
Second. I have a motion by Commissioner Leon Clement, second by Commissioner Hollowell. Any further discussion?
You get a new dog too?
There are funds if there is another canine ball, it will come from seizure funds. There are monies in the seizure fund to replace the dog as it did in the original when we bought Laura.
But you're going to wait till after the first of the year to let that happen?
Haven't decided yet.
Just curious.
All right, we do have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion passes 5-0. Thanks, Sheriff. Item 16 is deliberate and consider possible action regarding proposed FY21 budget. I know we talked last quarter about wanting to talk about the take-home policy for EMS as part of this discussion. I know Kevin's here, so I'll let him address that, and then we'll kind of work our way down through any other issues that we need to address. So, Kevin, I think you weren't in court last week, or 2 weeks ago, but we were talking about the take-home policy, and I think it was your training captain's vehicle was brought up, and getting a better understanding on use of that vehicle with regard to take-home. So if you'd give us a little rundown on that, that'd be great.
Sure. I didn't know how long this has been going on. It's longer. I've been here 10.5 years. It's been going longer than that. So I did reach out to Stella Manning, which is the retired business manager, and this has actually been going on for about 25 years, best that she can recollect. And the purpose behind that is we're a 24/7 operation, and he's more than a training captain, even though his title is training captain. He really is an assistant administrator. And, you know, he has to come in the evenings and the weekends just like I do. He responds to calls on the way in, responds to calls on the way home, as I do. And he's also available. He's a fully ALS staffed unit, so he's available for call after hours if necessary. So, you know, I guess my viewpoint is that if he can be on scene before Medic 3 one time and improve an outcome or even save a patient's life, it's worth what the cost is. So I did break down what the cost was. There was a comment, it's my understanding that we're going to wear out the vehicle. He puts about 10,000 miles a year on it, and with all maintenance and fuel, it works out to about $134 a month to have him utilize that as a take-home vehicle. And again, you know, if he can respond on one call. And I estimated, it's similar probably what I do, 4 to 6 calls a month, and probably has to come in on the weekends and evenings, probably between 2 and 6 times a month, depending on what's going on. It's been a little more during the COVID thing, trying to get things going on that. But in general, you know, it's an extra responder. It's an extra vehicle in the system. And that's really the purpose behind it. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
So Kevin, I was the one that was asking how many take-home vehicles were in the whole county, not just EMS.
Right. Yeah, we have 2. We have mine and we have his. And they're about the same. We put about 10,000 miles a year on each one. And the same purpose. I have a little more responsibility with the EOC and things of that nature, but in general, it's really to have a responder available. You know, on the east side, and I'm on the south side. But, you know, it's a good tool to have within the system to be able to utilize that. So
I didn't know if you and your the other gentleman responded to calls or not.
yes, we both do. Yes, we do. Well, I did before my surgery.
Other questions for Kevin on that?
I don't know that it's an issue this year, but at some point in time, you're going to request that vehicle be replaced, I would think. I'd like some kind of, personally, like to see some documentation, have him keep a record of his times that he's called out, and what it is, and what he's responding to.
Okay, we
So
have
you have a
done that.
track record?
Yeah, yeah, we can start
that
doing
you can print
that.
out, or whatever you need to do to say, this is what happened.
Yeah, and that's fine. And right now, that vehicle is 4 years old, has 40,000 miles on it. You know, the last vehicle, actually, we traded in 250,000 miles. So it's going to be long past my retirement before that needs to be replaced. But that's no problem.
We just got some heads up to be prepared.
Yeah.
That brings up a question, you know, we're replacing ambulances because standard, mileage standard, you know, industry standard. Do we keep up with all the logs on the ambulances when they leave, where they're going to? what the mileage, if it's the ambulance is going out on a call, or if they're just going to town for lunch, or do we keep up with any of them routes?
No, I mean, we just estimate we put about 30,000 miles a year on the vehicles, and we rotate them because of out-of-county transfers, so they get rotated every 2 months. Because Station 4 will do more out-of-county transfers than, say, Station 1 or Station 2. And so it puts more miles on it, so we rotate them out, and we put about 30,000 miles a year on the vehicles. But to answer your question, there's not a log.
There's not a log.
We do maintenance logs on them to make sure we stay with the maintenance and so forth on them, but not a mileage log. We've never done that.
I was just curious, how many times we're actually transporting a patient, or if we're just going from point A to point B and then back to point A.
I don't have that answer, but I would say we transport more patients than we do just out running errands.
Kevin, on moving a little bit different on your budget, the monitors, I know that's part of the amount, and we put it in this year's budget, and we also put it in this next year's budget because we didn't know exactly when those would come in. Do you have an update on that?
Yeah, they actually shipped last Friday.
Okay.
They will actually be in this week. We actually have training set for next week. So
what you're saying is we can take that out?
380,000 won't be in next year's budget.
So we can take that out of your budget for next year?
Yes, sir. And just so you know, the IV pumps did come in, and we're on the process of getting the dollars from CME. And once I get that amount, then I'll advise all of you what that amount is.
So that'll reduce your budget. Did you make a note of that, Shelley?
Yes.
That 338,200 will be zeroed out on that line. Any other questions for Kevin? Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate
All
it.
Great day. Thank you.
I do want to talk about the hot funds for a minute. That's on page, well, the budget portion of this doesn't have a page number, but I think it's, if you've got Adobe and can go to it, I think it's on page 407. The hot funds request, we didn't have them come in. Part of that was, I meant to talk about it last court, but I didn't. My mind was elsewhere. Yeah, there's no, so if you just type 407 up in that.
I tried that, and it came up no page
Oh.
number, 407.
Well, in mine, you may have downloaded the previous, the one without the budget packet in it. But anyway, their requests were, in there, the requests were from Downtown Development, Butterfield Stage, Cooke County Fair Association, Heritage Society, same as last year, same four. The requests were, that I have in the budget, I have in the budget everything that they requested with the exception of Butterfield Stage asked for a personnel request. That was not put in there. But and I think that was sent out earlier, the breakdown of what all they requested. Heritage Society request is a little different, but that's based on what their ask was more so than what my modification was. So would be that 41,100 instead of the 50,000. We do have the funds to cover all of those expenditures in this year, even though we're projected to be down some. I don't know where that account sits at the moment, but it was just a little under 200,000 last I looked. Shelley, you don't have a breakdown of that, do you?
Not off the top of my head, no. But it's because the other two haven't spent their money yet.
Yeah, it's a little high. A couple of them are still doing projects for this year. So,
So it's up there.
yeah. But if you take those
But if
two
you
out,
take those two out,
Yeah.
we're about a little over 200.
yeah, which would fund everything for the request or for what I have in there, 156. And then I don't know where hotels are going next year, but we should be somewhere in line in that same amount of being able to fund for next year, for 2022.
We're going to assume, though, it's going to go down.
We're assuming it's going down, but if we start with, I mean, if you're sitting here thinking, we still got a couple more months left in this fiscal year, we should have somewhere around 60 to 70,000 in that at that time. So last year was the first year that we generated any real full year off of it, and I think it was a little over, right around 200 or maybe a little over. So in a good year, it'll generate around 200,000.
So last year's budget for Butterfield was 10.8?
Last year's budget for Butterfield
70.
was 70.
70,000.
70,000, yeah. They all did, most of them requested a little less this year, understanding that, you know, there
Looked
may
like
be.
they requested 100, went from 70 to 100 on the request.
Yeah, that was for personnel was one of their requests, and I didn't think we wanted to get
I
into.
don't think we want to get into personnel.
No, that's pretty much what I told them, and they were completely understanding on that.
So you reduced it from 70,900 to 59,566.
Year over year, yes.
Yes.
And their request was for 100, basically 101 was their request.
And the Fair Association lowered their request 25,000.
Yeah, they requested 50, and what I have in here is for 50.
Heritage reduced by,
Heritage reduced by approximately 5,000.
what was the rationale on the Heritage that we went up from 24 to 46?
Well,
What
they
was the
had,
justification for
I
that?
think some of that was, I'd have to go back.
Oh, I know what it was. We have a hotel tax.
That's what all this is, yeah. This is all hotel tax, Gary.
Well, I'm just saying that that's the reason the request went up.
But I think their projects are, one of them's some changes to their roof, or actually it's leaking, so they're getting that fixed. It's part of their request for this year. The request all should be outlined in there. It's mainly structural stuff to make these facilities more attractive and being able to accommodate more people.
Are we allowed to let that fund grow? Or
We can, we hadn't really, I mean,
I wouldn't suggest that you try to grow a fund like that, because it was, we passed it to help all these organizations along, and I think you're running into
unless we have a, hey, we want to do this project in this year, and we're growing it for this reason, but just to let it, I mean, we have a little bit of a fund balance in there just as a cushion, but it's only, you know.
balance bad years with good years.
Yeah, it helps kind
Between
of.
this year and next year.
I don't have any heartache with it, I just wanted, like, if it's some kind of if it's not budgeted anyways, it wouldn't matter if somebody had an emergency arise,
Yeah, if it's not budgeted, it's not.
it doesn't matter, so.
Are we required by law to advertise that we have this money?
And we did, we put it out in the newspaper and online. We had a couple others inquire, but they didn't submit
They
anything.
never submitted
They never
anything.
submitted anything.
See,
But
if the economy stays down,
you'll may get more requests next year, and you may have
we
less
get
money
more
to give around.
requests, so it's,
We need to be able to save some money to possibly fund just what we have asking now before we get additional
Well, that's,
requests.
I know other agencies that have hotel funds that fund it based on projections and not based on what they have in the bank, and they had to come in and cut.
yeah.
So I don't want to get into that situation either. I want to not necessarily grow fund balance, but not necessarily give away money or not give away, but,
Indicate we might have it and then run short.
yeah, yeah. But that is, let me see what else I had on my to-do list for budget stuff. The only other thing, and I don't have anything on it, but just kind of putting it out there, since we have Darrell in the room, we might make some adjustments to the IT budget before we finalize the final budget in August, in light of different findings and stuff from the cyber incident. We might need to adjust your budget a little bit, not necessarily today, because we don't really know where we're going with that, but just kind of FYI that we might want to have that discussion between now and into August or whenever we finalize this budget.
Where have you plugged in the monies for the annex remodel and the potential purchase of real property?
They should be, if you go up to the 409 account, and I've got to figure out what page
Give
that's
me a
on.
page again, I'm going to try it one more time.
Well,
You don't know?
I don't know what page it is, because we plugged this budget in at the
Not
last minute,
numerical-
so
are they
it's
in
not.
numerical order by chance?
It's,
Maybe.
Which page?
409, okay.
409, there should be the, and 409, I have on page 2.
I'm showing
Anyway.
page 9 on mine and yours, or if you got what I got.
So there's 500,000 in for the annex remodel.
What line item? Your
I'm
409
looking
what?
at the line item 409-531. And this is based on our last budget workshop.
500,000 do it?
I don't
You hadn't
know.
heard back from Komatsu?
Hadn't heard back from Komatsu.
Okay.
Radio communications and radio towers, there's 500,000 for towers and then a million for, or a million for tower, 500,000 for communication. So total between those two is 1.5 million.
And possible real property?
And then if we're doing any other purchases, we do have permanent improvement funds.
I don't have anything budgeted for that.
You don't have anything?
It's in contingency, but I don't have anything.
In permanent improvement funds, there's about 3.5 million.
That won't come out of permanent improvement, right?
If we did a building purchase, it could come out of permanent improvement if we do so.
What line item are we looking at, the 3.5 million?
The 035-516-800 for contingency has 3 million. The total for that total budget's like 3.5.
So you got about 5.5 million, or
Yeah.
5 million in
If we
contingency.
if we spend every dollar on every project, which we have never,
What was that other line item you 039 or something?
oh, that's permanent improvement.
I know, but you're out of 409, right?
No, it's not in 409. It's 035 is the permanent improvement fund.
Okay.
Separate fund. 035-516-800 is the contingency that's got 3,055,000 in it.
But it's in there. That's the main thing.
Yeah, it's in there, and that fund we generally just have budgeted.
That's what that fund is for.
Yeah, we have budgeted that fund a lot in contingency, and we rarely spend, I mean, we pay for a lot of larger projects, like new ACs for the sheriff's department, and things like that out of it, but that fund just kind of slowly grows year over year if we don't spend it. That's why we've gotten to where we're at on it. But there is money there for any potential big projects we might feel the need to do. And then I know Shelley's got some small adjustments, and I've got one, but I'll let her see if she catches it first. Maybe a certain conference expense.
Oh, did I give myself too much money?
No, you gave the district clerk
Oh, yeah.
70,000 for conference. That may be a little high.
I'll take that, man.
Is she taking all of us?
I like Marcy going to the Hilton.
Somewhere.
It should be 7 and not 70. There's extra zero in there.
Should I go in department order?
You go in whatever order you want to.
Okay, in 409, I didn't add in the retiree insurance, so I added in for 5 at the current rate, and so that should be 46,565.
You're back in 409, Shelley?
Yep.
Yes.
Be nice if we
203.
knew what page number this stuff was.
I know, I didn't, that was a very late arrival.
Are you looking at the last?
Yeah.
I'm in the actual budget.
Or if you just pull up the individual budget. But it didn't get the packet number pages because we added that after.
I didn't get the packet number pages, but if you downloaded from the Dropbox, Leon, it's page number 9 of 198, if that's what you're looking at the top.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if it,
Well, it cut off some of these.
but it's page, it's 9, that's what they're looking at.
Uh-huh.
That help you?
Yeah. Then it kind of chopped a few things
It chopped
off,
a
yeah.
few of them off on the scan in.
Probably just the important stuff.
Just in, yeah, nobody.
Stuff you-
Just
In
the
the
good stuff.
district clerk's department, 450. I fat fingered the, travel instead of 70,000, it should be 7,000.
Yeah, there you go.
In the jury department, 465. The visiting judges, I put 500, it should be 5,000.
And that's kind of typically what it has been in the,
Yeah,
Yeah, it just
I just
didn't-
copied this same budget from prior years.
yep.
Dropped that zero from.
Well,
this one
because I
and gave it to Marcy?
can't put in decimal points, so I have to count the zeros and I either get carried away or not enough, you know. Department 540, we took out the monitors of 338,158 from medical supplies, which is 572, I believe. Uh, 574.
At 338.
Yeah.
What'd you take it to? Zero?
Bro.
338.
Department, fire marshal, 543. For some reason, I left off his dues and miscellaneous, so that's $150 for his dues and 500 for miscellaneous. And constable 1, department 551. I put in $20 for ammunition instead of 200.
That's one we reduced from like 800.
No, we did that on 2, not 1.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry.
So that should give us a general fund total of
We need to fix 2. We dropped it from 800, we made them both match at 200.
Mm-hmm.
2 showing 250.
Oh, okay.
With me?
Yeah. I can pull that back up.
You with me, Shelley?
do I?
Constable precinct 2, ammunition needs to go to 200 instead of 250.
Okay,
Make it match precinct 1.
all right.
You just messed up her calculation there.
I'm sorry, that's what I do.
She's going to be off by $50.
You're good at it, Gary.
What, this? Oh, well, I'm just using Excel. She's using that data.
Okay,
Hers is the one that matters.
well, I don't know if it,
Yeah, hers is the one that we keep the official thing in. I just like the Excel because I can do a lot more manipulation on stuff.
I don't know if it would populate into hers or not.
No, I just have to be difficult.
I'm just curious today about all kinds of stuff.
And I just have a dry throat, I don't have. So that gives me a general fund total of $26,548,888. And I have changes in other other funds. Do you want those, or do you want,
It depends on, if you want to walk through those, that's fine.
precinct 2 for liability insurance? I changed the requested 8,500 to 11,300, which is about what we spent this year. So that new budget is 2,204,582.
She didn't make a decimal problem on that one, did she? She didn't give you 20 making or something?
Precinct 3, I changed the requested liability insurance from $8,577 to $13,800, which is more in line with what we spent this year. An amount wasn't put for the subscription line, which is the new
Road and bridge.
work or order system. So I added $2,834 for that, making the budget $1,858,096.
You say it again, Shelley?
1858096.
Shelley, can you tell by looking how many employees I have in my number?
How many what?
How many employees I have in my number? Okay, not a biggie. We'll get it, I'll get it from HR.
Precinct 4, I changed the liability insurance request from $11,500 to $13,005, making the total $2,626,938. Do you want the special revenues or just?
Go for it.
Fund 34 and Department 435, I totally left that one out for some reason. So for FICA expense, I put $500. For transcripts, I put $20,000. For visiting court reporters, I put $20,000, making the total for that department $40,500, which is the same as current year budget,
Okay.
making the grand total for the fund $50,500, which is the same as the current year budget.
And just for clarity, everybody, those are special revenue funds. That's not part of the general fund. That's,
For the court reporter.
yeah, that's for court reporter stuff.
For Fund 48, I budgeted for the final, pardon me, the final payment for the, scanning in the district, county clerk's office
Mm-hmm.
in line 48,403,553. That needs to come off because we budgeted in Pam's,
Okay, so that's in Pam's budget, not in the records management.
yeah,
That, not in the general records management.
right. So that's 198,175 that needs to come off
Good.
out of there. I think I penciled it in, not knowing,
How we were going to handle
yeah.
that.
I think that is all I have. That's all I have.
All righty. Anybody else have anything else?
One question, page 171 on what I have, this is in the DA's. Miscellaneous. There's always been 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6,000, now it has 65,000, it's
Hold on.
056, 476, 499.
Oh, that's, that's forfeiture fund.
That's forfeiture
Yeah,
fund.
yeah.
They just budget everything there and just move it whenever they need it.
They just started doing that last year?
No, they've been doing that for,
Well, when you go into the preceding years, 18, 19, and 20, it's like 8,000, 6,000.
They may have more money now than what they did.
That's the question.
well, that's just the actual expenses.
So they don't show what they had, that's just the actual expenses?
Right.
Okay.
And those funds are a little different completely. I mean, it's
So it
weird.
goes
how-
under miscellaneous, I got you.
Yeah, they budget, instead of putting it in contingency line, they put everything in miscellaneous and they move it, but what you're seeing in prior years is actual.
Is what they actually spent from it.
Yes.
So how much does that grow a year, do you think? Or what do they bring in a year, just curious?
Well, they split the proceeds with the sheriff's office, and,
It depends on the kind of year.
Gary Schleber, I think it's 60/40 split.
It varied, though.
Forfeiture funds, you split with the DA, 60, 40, or something like that?
30/70, so they get 30%, so.
You get 70, they get 30? Okay. I was just curious, that, it looks like all of a sudden it just blows
Just
up.
blows
No,
up.
that's,
Yeah.
it's,
Okay.
yeah, that's normal.
Other questions on it? So timeline-wise, if the budget is submitted as a proposed budget by the end of July, which happens soon, then we can pass a final budget 15th day after the following month, which I don't know why they just don't say August. After August 15th, because some of them run calendar year, but if you run the way we do. So we can pass a final budget anytime after August 15th.
Second court in August.
And so second court in August is traditionally where that, yeah, but if for some reason we wanted to do it the first court in September, but I mean, you got to do 10 days notice in the newspaper, so we could, well, this gets kind of a little farther on, but I just kind of set in the timeline on everything. We could consider it on the 24th, I think is the second court in August. Yeah. We can still make any necessary revisions between now and then, but this gets a official proposed budget out there. Questions, comments?
So what's SB 2 done to us differently? What's the changes going to be?
So some of that we can talk about when we get to the tax rate part, because that's the bigger changes than the budget part. As far as our hearings and when we have to have hearings, and the timeline on that is all changed as part of the rate, but I'm not aware of any changes on the budget side unless you are, Shelley. So we can talk about that in the next line item.
It changed so much, I didn't know if it had anything to do with any of this.
It doesn't.
I think they only messed with the tax code.
Yeah, it didn't change, the budget's found in local government code 111, and then, but tax code, chapter 26 is the one that just completely got revamped, and then there's some other stuff for other entities that got revamped, but it didn't change anything to my knowledge as part of the actual budget process, as part of the tax rate process. And we can talk about that in just 1 minute, or 2, or 5.
It won't go that fast.
Well, I'll make a motion, we approve the proposed FY '21 budget.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hollowell. Any further discussion on item 16? Not all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion passes 5-0. Item 17 is deliberate and consider possible approval of proposed 2021 Cooke County tax rate. This is the one that had more impact on changes. Shelley might have some of this information too, but it changed up the certified rolls were due on the 26th, and we did get those. The tax rates, as far as what the thresholds are for the no new revenue rate, the voter approved rate, and all of that is technically not due until August 7th, so we don't have that information as of today. But they changed it to where we've got to provide more notice, and they took away the 2 meeting before passage if there is an increase to just having 1 meeting period. But you either got to give, depending upon how you read it, 5 or 7 days notice, which I think you can give 7 and obviously satisfy the 5. So
There's still no meeting required if the tax rate doesn't increase?
we still have to have, we still got to do the public notice, and there's a notice of public meeting, but you don't have to have the public hearing part of it. And that's, I pulled that here. If we don't don't go above the no new revenue rate, which is previously the effective tax rate, then you only have to do a notice of meeting. If you go above that rate, then you have to have the public hearing, but it's only 1 public hearing, and you have to make that decision on that court or within 5 days of that court or of that meeting.
Where we at, 43.99?
We're at 43.40, now, so you put me on the spot, 43.45.
It was 43.99 last year,
I thought it was 43.30.
43.34.
There's so many numbers at the moment, hold on. 43.45 is where we're at the moment.
Okay.
We did get the certified appraisals in. They look to be about 2.2% above last year, if I do my math correctly.
They ought to be, I got my bill.
That's overall. New value looks to be 85 million and some change
85 million in new value?
in new value.
Oh, not in new, not in.
That's new construction.
In new
That's
construction.
New builds, 85 million.
Really?
Yeah.
What's the total roll?
The total freeze adjusted for 2020.
We're up 160 million.
We're up 160 million,
Yeah.
half of that is new builds,
Yeah.
roughly.
What is it?
The freeze adjusted is 3.671, and then new value is 85 million. That's billion, by the way.
Right, yeah, billion with a B.
Uh,
It's up 160 million.
Yeah.
What's the B?
The B, that's the total freeze adjusted values for 2020 is 3.67 billion with a B.
So, did I hear you correctly that the term effective rate
Is
is
gone.
gone?
And now we're at no new revenue tax rate. Although you still have new revenue if you include the new bill. So it's not really a correct term either. But it's maybe closer. Nobody understands what effective tax rate means anyway, or very few people do.
I have to learn the new one.
Now you got to learn the new term.
No new value,
No new revenue,
no new revenue.
not no new value, no new revenue.
No new revenue rate.
So, based on my understanding, and factored into the calculation, this is part of what's taken a little time for determining what the no new revenue rate is and what the voter-approved tax rate, which is the one that has to, if you go above 3.5 or during a disaster 8%, that's the voter-approved tax rate, is that, in those calculations, is you break out, not part of it, the increase in funding for court-appointed attorneys. Am I correct on that, Shelley?
Indigent defense.
Indigent defense, excuse me. Yeah, that's what I meant.
What we weren't reimbursed for indigent defense.
Yeah.
So I had to break out CPS, adult guardians, extradition, some other smaller things, and then what's reimbursed through court costs and what we're paid through the state, but it's not based on fiscal year, it's based on July to June. But they wanted 2 years, so I had to do 19 and 20.
They're making it easy on you.
It was not easy.
Yeah.
So that number will impact what the no new revenue rate is.
It was over 300,000 for 19 and over 200,000 for 20. So we're,
That's more than I thought
I'd say over 600,000
over that period.
for both of them.
So what do you do with that number?
So I don't know what it does to the tax calculation.
That's what, why would they
There,
take?
it's an item in the tax calculation. It's, if we had state mandated jail days, if we had indigent health care, if we had a county hospital, and if we had indigent defense. So we only had one out of the 4.
So common sense would say that it would drive your effective rate up a little bit, quite possibly. Supposedly.
And we just don't know how that is actually factored in, and it's going to be a year over year, so are we setting a base this year, and how does that adjust next year?
Or are they just averaging 2 years together to keep it from
Keep it from
kind of?
doing big swings?
Yeah. They don't tell you that, huh?
No. So that's, and then sales tax is down. So anyway, all that being said, we don't know what the rate is at the moment, but we don't have to know until the 7th. We can,
So budgeting revenue is going to be
really interesting.
difficult. I mean, I can put in based on the current rate we have,
So we
just to
have,
have a number.
yeah. So we have 2 different options, as far as I see it, is we can, once we get that, we can call a special court to set that so that we can be able to send out our notices and put it in the proposed budget for Shelley to figure out on the revenue side, or we can do it all on the 10th for the rate. You would still be able to have the notices needed to get it out for the 7th, or for the 24th, excuse me, court. So we could set it all next regular court, or we could call a special court. Special court helps Shelley out as far as figuring out something for the budget.
When would you consider a special court?
Monday, next Monday? Maybe we might have it in a week.
After the 10th, I can't do it any of the rest of that week.
Well, and we're hit a deadline there
I know
anyway.
you already hit a deadline anyway, so.
So
Well, next Monday's August the 3rd.
we may still not have it.
We may not still have it.
We can pencil that in, and if we have it by Friday, we can set it on Monday. If we don't, we'll fall to the 10th.
Got there before Friday, right? Got to know.
We got to know before Friday, yeah.
Notice by Thursday.
Well, Friday morning at 10 is the last absolute drop dead date on that.
So what happens when he misses his mark?
Then that'll make it interesting then we don't approve a budget in August and we push it to September. That's just the work, I mean, that's the fallback position.
So that can be done, so
That
it's not
can-
the end of the world.
It can be done. There's plenty of counties that approve budgets in September, but we
And
have,
I would think I would just wait till the 10th at that point.
Do it on the 10th?
600,000 we're talking about on engine defense and stuff, could that drive the tax rate 2 cents?
I think that's average, or that's a total over 2 years. I don't think they would, I think that's going to be broke down different. It may be 300,000, you average it over that.
They might be averaging the 2 years.
That's a penny. I mean,
It's a penny though, so
Yeah.
I mean, 300,000 a penny, right?
yeah, pretty close.
If that's how they do it. Common sense would say that, but you know how that works.
So the only, not to throw a hiccup in the whole thing, the only thing that throws a hiccup in the whole thing is if we actually think we're going above any voter-approved rate, which I would.
You talking 8%?
I'm talking 3.5 or 8, depending upon whether we want to declare it a disaster or something. There's some counties that are doing that and going all the way to the 8, but it's either the 8 or the 3.5, depending upon who you believe where.
My knee-jerk is with our financial status, we don't need to go get anywhere near.
I don't think we're going, I don't want to go above the voter approval rate.
Voter approved, though, is not
Is it-
effective.
No, it's not effective. Voter approved is your 3.5 above effective.
Right, yeah.
So, I mean, if we do that, though, in order to get it on the ballot, you got to know by the 17th, which pushes all your timelines back to now.
If you do what?
If you go above the voter approved rate, we go 3.5%.
I don't think
I don't think there's any
I don't
indication
think
to
we're
do that.
intending to do that.
But we pretty much close that door if we don't,
Of course, if you don't have all the final numbers, it's kind of, we're sitting here speculating about something we don't even know what
well,
exists.
which is why it's, in setting in a lot of these meetings on this stuff, makes it so challenging to, there's essentially, because of this year and how the timetable falls, the last day to get anything on the ballot is the 17th. I believe that's right, 17th, Pam. So you have to do your 7 days notice before then, but it's got to be set at a regular court, so it pushes everything back into, if counties want to get something on the ballot, they've got to approve their budgets they got to approve their tax rates, in July, which is before most of them have even set their budgets.
So they're forcing some of these counties to go to the 8% emergency rate because they got to cover themselves because they don't know what's going to happen.
And they're forcing them to back up their budgeting process to setting a tax rate before a budget, maybe, in order to meet the deadlines. And then next year, supposedly, because when the deadlines is, it's actually impossible to, because the times don't, they overlap.
They've got it so overlapping, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But just given what we've historically done and kind of where our budget is this year, I don't see us going to the voters for voter-approved rates, so.
I don't,
I don't either. I think that's a moot point. I
for
don't
these
think that's-
counties that do, I don't know how they
I don't
expect
know
to
how,
get it.
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of reasons why, but
I don't
think that's an issue. And
I don't think that'd be an issue in Cooke
That's not
County.
an issue.
So all that being said, is 17 will, since we don't have any of that, will be no action. And then we might have a special court on the 3rd, but we'll know by the end of the week, so
Well, we could do it all on the 10th.
we can, are you okay with that, Shelley?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's just do it all on the 10th.
Okay.
That way
Regular
you got
court
enough
time. Regular
cushion
court.
to-
Yep,
We're going to be here anyway,
that's perfect.
Really?
aren't we? Well, I hope to be here.
If you,
The big
unless you
guy might-
develop a cough or
The
something.
big guy might have different plans, but I don't know. And then I really wouldn't care if that happens.
All right, 17 will be no action. 18 is deliberate and consider possible approval of setting the date for the public hearing for FY '21 Cooke County budget. This will, since we can set this one, I'm assuming we're going to set it on the 24th of August, which is the first available court to set it on,
When are we going to vote the final?
24th of August.
And we're going to do the hearing and then vote?
Yeah, that's typically how we've done it. So I'll make a motion, we set the public hearing for the budget on the 24th of August.
Second.
Second by Commissioner John Clement. Any discussion?
That's the last time we can make a change in any of our budgets, right?
Correct.
Gotcha.
Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion passes 5-0. Item 19 is deliberate and consider possible approval of setting dates for public hearing regarding proposed 2021 county tax rate. I said we hold off until we set a tax rate, but I would think we're looking at that same date, the 24th, but I think we make.
We really need some proposed out there, so if people want to come before the court.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, is it doesn't make sense to set a
24th.
date of when we're going to talk about it, so,
But it needs to be
17
prior to the 24th, right?
well, it will be on the, yeah, we will approve a proposed tax rate and the date of the hearing for the final tax rate on the 10th. That's the date we set it, and then we'll set that, looks like we'll set that public hearing, or it wouldn't even be a public hearing, but it would be a public meeting and notice of the tax rate for the 24th. If all that makes sense. But what I'm saying is, since we don't have a tax rate, we really can't set a public hearing for a tax rate today. So 19 will be no action.
You know, that's as confusing as what you read to me about the state.
All right, who's on first? Item 20 is deliberation and regarding status and future needs of new CPS court and considering possible action regarding the same.
When do they think they're ever gonna start anything up over there? When are the court systems really gonna get going again? Does anybody have a clue?
I think September is still
September,
the
is that the
latest.
new date?
That's still the current
Okay.
thought process. I mean, they're pushing, it was going to be July 1st, then August 1st, and now September 1st.
Yeah.
So they keep pushing it. Rick said, I think the only thing needed inside, the carpet's supposed to be here this week, and then a panic bar on the exit door are the only two things that are left as far as the room. Anybody else have anything else on item 20? If not, item 20 would be no action. Item 21 is deliberate and consider possible action regarding subdivision regulations. Excuse me. And this is, we talked about putting this on court to talk about the engineer review fee. Commissioner Holloway, I don't know if you had any time or looked at any of that, but I looked at it for a few minutes this morning. Here is what I would suggest, and we can chew on this another court.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It actually has in the fees application schedule, engineering review fee. Fee will be determined at time of plans are submitted for review.
Where are you looking at?
I'm looking at the very first page in that box. Where the red line starts showing up is what I suggest we add, is the fee must be paid prior to final approval. So there's two different ways to read that. I think we have the ability to charge that fee already, but I think it doesn't really say that when that fee has to be charged and who's responsible for it necessarily. So what this and the subsequent 2 or 3 pages are just little one-liners to add to each step in that process to hopefully clarify that, to give us the ability to then turn around and charge that developer that fee. So
All the application fees, as far as preliminary and final, that's what they're paying the county.
yes,
Then you get down to engineering fees.
right now it just says what is in black right there. Fees will be determined at time plans are submitted for review. Now, the problem we get into, and we may want to change up that whole sentence, but the problem we get into is most of the time you don't know exactly what that fee is going to be until you send it off to the engineer who says, oh yeah, this is going to cost, $500 or $1,000 or whatever the cost is. So maybe we want to completely rewrite that sentence and say fees will be determined before final plat and must be paid or something along those lines.
Fees be determined based on the invoice.
Or based on, and I'm just throwing out the relevant statutes or relevant sections right here, and I don't really want to, I think we chew on this for a couple of weeks and come back on the 10th and talk about it, but these are the 3, I think it needs to spell out, because it really doesn't in our current regs, that the fees have to be, the requisite fees have to be paid whenever you submit a plat, because I know a lot of times people bring in a plat but may not bring in a fee, and well, if the plat, or not plat, but the application may not bring in a fee, that fee's not, or that application's not being be considered until you get the fee. But we don't have to get into a long discussion, but these are that's that engineering review fee, and we might want to clarify that language even more to basically say, like you said, upon invoice or whatever, but before final approval, because we still have that ability to hold their fee. But after we approve the final,
We have no leverage.
we have no leverage.
But, so, we need a process in place, because we're on a 30-day calendar, right?
Yeah.
Once they submit it, we need
So-
something in place that the engineers get us the invoice in a timely fashion, so that can immediately be presented for payment by the subdeveloper.
So there's two different 30-day shot clocks. There's the preliminary 30 days, and then the final is another application, another 30 days. So if we know that number before the final, or when the final application is submitted, then we can get payment. But I think we can, and I just threw this together this morning, but I think maybe we change this wording to basically mean that we don't consider that a final application for your final plat until that fee is, so then you hold that shot clock, and we're not getting into a
30-day.
30-day, bind
And
there.
it's approved by default because they haven't paid their money.
Yeah, we don't give them a final plat until they pay their money.
And
But
that-
doesn't it say that if we don't approve it within the 30 days, then?
Yeah, and that's a state law, but it's 30 days of a final submission, and so we determine what that is. So if,
We won't accept the final, won't accept the application for the final until we got the money in our hand.
yeah, and we basically need a,
Then we need to figure out what individual's going to be assigned and to be sure that we get
follow
that
up with
collected.
that. Yeah, and I think, right now, all those applications are filed in my office. I think it's real easy if we know what that number is to say, you still owe us that money. I mean, we correspond with these developers all the time saying, we still need this, this, and this for it to be considered
So you have to,
submitted.
Kathy maybe is the one that badgers the engineer to say, hey, we need
She's
this
good at
invoice. And then she adds that to.
That's one of
what they owe
that's
us.
one of the list of things that, hey, we still need this, this, and this before we can, and you got that documentation showing that,
We've been rocking along here assuming it's been getting done. We hadn't collected.
but we hadn't, and because it hadn't been clear that we just need to clarify that. And I'm not saying this is the language to do it, but I'm just throwing out the relevance.
We're also going to address, the subdivisions that don't have the road system through it.
Well, that's what this would be. That engineering review fee is for any,
All things.
and if you go in their plans or technically even drainage plans or plans, and so that, we can require it on any. But that's exactly where we need to make sure to,
Well, if we're going to have this for more further discussion, I'd also like to address the roads. Part of some of the other counties have been doing some research. And I know we talked about this when we were doing the regs. A developer goes out in a rural part and they want to build a subdivision. If they destroy a road, or if a road doesn't have the proper right-of-way, some of the other counties are requiring the developer get the right-of-way and pay to have that road paved if it's a county road. Might kind of take some of that heartache or headaches that we all going to see in the future. I only printed out one copy of Denton County's, but if y'all want to discuss that at the next meeting, discuss a little further.
we've got some language in ours that makes that, I think, maybe an option, but it doesn't make it a requirement.
Ours is a little lax. I think even our building of the roads, I think we still got the same minimum amount of gravel still showing. Denton County requires a per text dot standards. So, and they also, I mean, it even goes further with all county roads, that if there's any request for paved roads, that all the county roads would have to meet the subdivision guidelines. So,
The width and everything.
the width, so if you got a road currently like some that we have in precinct 3 that they want to pave the road, it's a 30-foot from fence to fence, and they want a paved road and goes to subdivision. If we would change our regs up before a developer could ever come in and develop that, he would have to approach the property owners on that county road. He'd have to obtain the right-of-way and either pay the county to do the work, just like if we chip seal the roads, if they don't finish, the subdivision. They would make that donation, or else, flat. And then our county roads, if they're gravel roads, they go as far into here, what's a requirement for a paved road, and they list out 3 different categories. And one that shows up on every category is 80% of the property owners give the right-of-way, have to donate the right-of-way before they'll pave the road. And for future growth with what's projected to come this way, we need to discuss this and stop this excessive spending on paved roads on roads that we can't maintain. I know it's a little bit offset from the subdivision, but it is in some of the language on subdivisions.
Thoughts?
Oh, it may well need to be discussed, but typically that takes a little time on learning that detail. My concern is I don't want us to continue paying for reviews of plats while we're working on our or revising our subdivisions. I'd like to get
Yeah, we can get this,
these fees
yeah, we can get that
moving
squared away.
along, because we've spent several $1,000s for which we have not been reimbursed.
We had discussion about how do we handle somebody putting in a 50-house subdivision at the end of a 18-foot wide gravel road. We never came to any conclusion about how you're gonna force that to happen. I think at one time we even discussed, did we have the authority to make that happen? I assume we, well, I don't.
Yeah, we do. I think we have, and I'd have to go back and look at it because it's been forever since I looked at the regs, but it has somewhere in there that we have the option to require improvement of roads within so many feet, but I don't know.
Was it number of
Is that
cars? Or was
bracketed
it-
by population? No, I'm sure Denton County can probably do a lot of things we can't.
I don't remember.
Maybe bracketed.
I
Well,
could,
we're like the old west here, everybody just does what they want to do. And I've even got property owners coming up to me about things on the road that the farmers can't get down the road because there's so many houses being built on these roads, they can't get their equipment down. That's getting off the subject of subdivisions. I would just, with what Denton County has proposed in some of their language here, I've got a subdivision that's going in, it's got 3 phases. If it was per Denton County's plat, the damaged roads in that subdivision right now, the developer would be responsible of rebuilding the roads in there. Our language is so weak, it doesn't do anything. We got a minimum amount of gravel that we're going by, and that's what they're building these roads right now to, because it says, well, it's a minimum amount of gravel. It doesn't really, it talks about the soil, you know, what type of soil, we've got a little language in that. If you throw in TxDOT standards, and that throws it into if the soil doesn't meet a certain criteria, then it's gonna have to be lime stabilized, everything. We don't have that kind of language. And for future growth, and I'm speaking as a taxpayer, I live in the city limits, and I pay a road and bridge tax to pave roads. Well, I would like to see the roads that get paved be built to a standard, and that's through the subdivisions or if it's a county road. And we need to have that discussion.
You said the road and bridge tax to get them paved?
When you get paid your road, your budget, and you got somebody requesting to pave a road, it's coming out of your budget, okay? I pay a road and bridge tax that goes in the precinct 3 budget. I don't live out in the country, so I'm paying for a paved road out in the country, my percentage of it, just like you do, like everybody does. And I would just like to see us set up a standard where at least when we're building these roads, they will hold up. Don't be building a paved road on a gravel road that's a little goat trail. It should have a 60-foot right-of-way, it should be 24 foot wide. If the people that live out there, if they're gonna be a subdivision out there, then that road should be, if it's an artery, should meet our guidelines. Shouldn't build a subdivision out in the rural part of the county that has a narrow road, build a subdivision first, then demand have the road paved. And we're talking about subdivision, so that's why I'm addressing this now. And I'll be glad to print out this copy and y'all can all read it and we can have further discussion about it.
So we do have some language in ours that does talk about feeder road improvements and traffic analysis if it's over 50 lots.
was it 50 lots? I knew we had
50
put
lots.
something in there, but I wasn't sure what it was.
And that we can we may require the developer of a new subdivision with a feeder road within 3,000 feet of the subdivision enter into a development agreement to improve that feeder road. So we have some language, and I'm, completely open to looking at that some more, but there is.
We said it's a living document, it's
Yeah,
up
yeah.
to be revised.
Yeah.
But I don't know if there's any, the size of the county has any control over what we can do, what we can't do. I don't know about
I
that.
think you can demand some right-of-ways over 125,000, I think.
Yeah, there's some
I
thresholds.
don't think,
I don't know
Grayson
what the
County, I
cutoff-
think can, but I don't think we can.
Yeah, I don't know what the cutoff is on that, but we're gonna have to figure out what can we do and what can't we do.
It's a work in progress, but like I said, I'd like to get the fees.
Yeah, we can get the fees done, and we may set up because we can get pretty nuanced on that, set up a workshop and hammer through some of.
My reason to bring it up, I won't be here next year, and if you don't start looking in the future, you're gonna end up being the county that you're gonna be stuck with a bunch of narrow roads, you're gonna have a large population, and everybody's gonna be upset. Safety will be a factor, and it'd be best to address it now.
Yep. Item 21 will be no action. Item 22 is deliberate and consider possible action regarding various grant funds. First one is FEMA 2015 flood. Anything new on it?
We still haven't received our letter from Tatum that our extension was approved. So I guess I need to email Tatum and ask them where it's at.
They're kind of like the family that moved away and never answers anymore. Right?
I mean, I don't know what's taking so long.
The long-lost uncle that moved away to another state and he never calls back.
I'll email Pat
Yeah.
and ask her where it's at. I'll forward her Andrea's email and say, where are we at?
They may be more wrapped around the axle about COVID than they are anything else.
Yeah. But that's nothing new on 2015.
Now they got a hurricane to it all.
Yeah, now they got a new hurricane or something down there.
Oh, a new hurricane, yeah.
All right, so FEMA 2020 COVID-19, I don't think we've got anything on this, the COVID FEMA. CARES Act funding, I know we talked last court about possibly the ability to provide economic incentives to those companies that were impacted because of shutdown orders and things of that nature. Looked into that a little bit more. The governor's office put some restrictions on the CARES Act funding that the feds did not put, which is that only 25% of that can be spent on those type of items. And there was a question, is it 25% of what we've been allocated or what we've been awarded, which is 1.2 million? Or is it 25% of what you've spent? Well, it turns out it's 25% of what you've spent, so it would be a few $1,000s would be our ability to hand out as part of an economic incentive grant program to businesses with those funds, and not several tens of thousands.
It'd take more to process it than it would for them to benefit from it.
Yes, and I say all that to say that there is some changes coming maybe this week with the new legislation working its way through Congress. There's supposed to be some, it now appears there's not new funding, but they're changing up, broadening what those funds can be spent on. So by the time we meet next, we may have a different solution to that, but they're not real happy with the state, and Texas isn't the only one that's put additional requirements on those funds other than what the federal government has put. So,
Except for the big counties.
the big counties got it directly from,
Yeah.
they got to spend, and they've spent, a lot of those big counties have
Yeah.
spent a lot of their money. But the state of Texas has spent just a fraction of the money they were given, and they were given that money to push out to the people to provide relief, and that has not happened. And we're not the only state dealing with that. So there's a lot of frustration at the federal level with the states for not pushing that money down. And there's supposed to be some more requirements to require them to push it down and then broaden potentially what those funds can be spent on. So that's a whole lot to say that we'll see in 2 weeks, but there's not much we can do at the moment. D is public safety COVID grants. I don't have anything new on that. Shelley, you heard anything on that one?
No.
CTIF road grants that has been signed off on by all parties involved, and I think you guys have gotten the green light.
Anything special, Shelley, we need to be doing?
No, just keep up with it in your work order system under CTIF instead of FEMA.
'Cause it's labor, equipment, and materials, right?
Labor, equipment, and materials,
Just like a FEMA.
just like a FEMA,
Yeah,
Just like a FEMA.
it probably will be.
I believe I'm required to report monthly.
What we're doing.
So if we have no activity for the first month or whatever, you need to report of that?
Well, I don't plan on, I don't plan on sending a report at the end of this month since it was just approved, so.
Are they gonna,
In order to get reimbursed, I guess they want us to turn it in monthly regardless if you're finished or not.
they're gonna reimburse us as we go, or they're gonna,
Yeah,
yeah, okay. We don't have to complete the whole section that we're gonna do. That's what I thought. Okay.
We spend it, we don't wait 5 years to get it back.
right.
All right, then the last one is the HAVA elections grant, and I think we discussed this one earlier in the meeting with the voting equipment.
So you're gonna get pricing and research all this as fast as you can to try to get this.
And so then item 23 is executive session in compliance with Texas Open Meetings Act 551 of the Government Code. We have personnel, consult with attorney, real property, and security devices and audits. It is 11:55.
I want a break.
5-minute break, and then we'll go into executive. On the air, 12:55. Let me know when you're ready, Darrell.
It still says executive if you can't see it. Okay.
Okay. It is, I'm going to go ahead and get started. It is 12:56. We are back in regular session. Item number 24 is deliberate and consider possible action regarding public health emergency declaration for COVID-19. I don't have anything on that at this time. We probably need to do an updated declaration at some point, but we're
How many
good.
cases do we have now?
It's whatever that says.
Active.
Active cases? I don't know. I'd have to go back and look.
Active.
Everybody gives you that, what we've had forever. What do we
Uh-huh.
have today?
It looks like it's somewhat stabilizing. We were increasing quite a bit for the past few weeks, but it's somewhat stabilizing on new cases, which is kind of seems to be the trend across the state at the moment. So for a county our size, we're actually pretty good numbers-wise compared to other counties. I don't know that there's any good, but we're lower than several other counties our size by population, but still getting a lot of
Meeting around
cases.
just time as we head into
Sorry about that.
But as of Friday, we have 45 active cases. I hadn't
45.
checked on anything this morning. But it's slowly working its way down just a little bit, if not stabilized. Item 25 is Deliberate and consider possible action regarding personnel matters. I don't believe we had any. Item 26 is deliberate and consider possible action regarding purchase of real property. We have anything on that? I don't think so. Item 27 is future agenda items. We need the fees for subdivision stuff back on there. Maybe a workshop on that. And then for public consumption here, we are setting a special court on August 17th, which is a Monday at 10 a.m. To discuss the Confederate monument on the courthouse grounds. More details to follow.
We're going to talk about times on that, so that.
Yeah, we're gonna
Surprised that-
limit total public comments to 1 hour on that, and the amount of time each person will get will be dictated about how many people sign up for the public comments. But there'll be more information to follow on that, but that will be a special court, and it'll be held here. Any other future agenda items?
Well, you're going to put out more information. If you have a lot of people, we're not going to let everybody in here at once. They're going to have to stay.
Yeah, I'm going to do a special, probably go ahead and post that meeting notice with the special verbiage up front. And
Like lines of rotunda or whatever.
yeah, and there's only going to be so many people allowed in here depending upon obvious spacing. And everybody else will be,
We will be practicing social distance.
we'll be doing our best to social distance. Any other future agenda items?
It'll also be live feed as well.
Yes, so don't feel like you have to come to watch the spectacle. You can watch it online from the comfort of your own home. Any other items? If not, item 28 is to adjourn. Got a motion by Commissioner Snuggs, second by Commissioner Hollowell. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion passes 5-0.
Guess I better take my jacket